Hello, and welcome to At Your Instep. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
No, I'm Santa Claus.
You are not Santa Claus.
There was a man on my roof last night,
Did you murder this man?
and I did a murder to that man, and he had a red coat, and I
then
put it on.
you picked up a card that said, please put, and the reindeer will do the rest.
Yep.
And then you went back to the North Pole.
And then a small woman made me a delicious hot cocoa.
Nice.
So,
and then an elf who was kind of a busybody and later went on to play some TV roles, told you that you were the new Santa Claus and you had a year to wrap up your affairs.
You mean everyone's favorite character, Bernard Numbers?
Correct. Bernard G. Numbers.
Bernard G. Numbers. Oh, man.
Well,
that guy was cool.
Congratulations on your new career.
Thank you.
I imagine you have a lot of downtime, though, so I assume you'll still be playing some amount of Magic.
No, for sure. It's great. Yeah, it's great.
I'll try to find you on the motos. I assume you're going to get a new screen name. That's just the Santa Claus.
The Santa Claus. Yeah, it's pretty great. And I'm already married, so I don't have to do any of those tricky sequels. So
there you go.
That's good.
Easy peasy. And you don't even have any baggage of, like, kids.
No,
so,
it's the best.
So there you go.
I do have baggage.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to have luggage.
Well, quite literally, it's one large bag.
Yeah, very
presents, so.
Quite a sack, they might say.
Let's not talk about Santa's sack.
Welcome to our Santa Claus roleplay podcast.
I cannot call it a year if I haven't at least roleplayed Tim Allen at least once.
Yeah, at some point in time.
Which, as I've gotten older, has gotten harder and harder to commit to.
Yeah, no.
When you're a kid, you're like, man, I'm Buzz Lightyear. When you're older, like, I guess, like, I don't know, Nazis aren't the worst. I don't know, Tim Allen kind of sucks.
Yeah, if you don't know that, Tim Allen kind of sucks. Sorry, guys. But oh well. You know, the things you learn when you grow up, it's unfortunate. But we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. We held off on casting till today because we were getting all of the Ravnica Allegiance mechanics, and we really wanted to talk about them and not have to wait because we know that we're not going to be casting next week. It's here in the States, it's Christmas, so people are going to be out of town. It's really hard to kind of get together, and there's also nothing else really going on. So we figured we might as well just wait and then so you guys have something for this week when you're listening to it right now. So.
Plus I have work.
Yeah, sure. He may not be being entirely truthful, but hey, lots of people are off during this time of year. Not me. I do have work.
No, I see you when you're sleeping.
Yeah, and he does know when I'm awake.
Specifically Morgan.
So let's jump right into the community topics here. And the first thing we're obviously going to talk about are these new mechanics. And we're kind of going to go through them one by one from how they were sort of rolled out here. I guess, how they were rolled out. So the first thing we have is Rakdos with Spectacle. And Spectacle is a alternative casting cost. So it'll read Spectacle and have a CMC. It'll say you can cast this card for its Spectacle cost if a player has lost life this turn. Now, life loss is damage, of course, but it also is when you have things that drain, like what Vampires Bite from Num 19, where that is also life loss. So it covers more of your bases than something like a Bloodthirst trigger would really look at. And some of the stuff costs more for its Spectacle cost, or some of it is a reduced cost. We do have. I think the best way to go about it is kind of share the rare that we have for it. So I know you have the rare pulled up over there.
Yeah, it's Rix Amati Reveler. It's a generic and a red for a 2/2 human shaman. Has Spectacle cost of 2 generic red-black. It says, when Rix Amati Reveler enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. If its Spectacle cost was paid, instead discard your hand and draw 3 cards. Which I like that clause, playing a lot of Bedlam Revelers.
Yeah, exactly. This is a kind of a card that an aggressive deck would really want to take advantage of. It's a 2-drop that comes in and still has some sort of advantage. And then later on in the game, it can really pull you ahead out of nowhere and give you a little bit of reach in your deck if you have that to finish out the game or what have you. But anything that reduces costs is typically anything that adds a little bonus to your spell.
I was going to say it's not
necessarily reduced costs, but the things that do the spectacles that are reduced costs are going to be good. I think. And then anything that allows your spells to have like a modal capability, like a kicker or something like that, is good. Obviously, you have to jump through a little bit more of a hoop, but
I like these kind of designs too. At least this first rare that I've seen. We'll talk about. There's another spectacle card that we got as a promo as well. We're going to talk about the promos that we saw.
Yes.
But I like this idea because like normally when they have these alternate cost things, they put them so close to each other that you really don't want to like you don't want to play the bad version. You know what I mean? You want to wait. But this one, like, at 2 mana, a 2/2 that lets you filter is very, very good. And at 4 mana, it can also be very, very good. So it encourages you to still play on curve, which is what your Rakdos deck is going to want to do.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that they didn't make this, because that's the thing I see with these kind of mechanics very often, is they make, it's like when you make your kicker 1 extra or 2 extra, and you're like, yeah, but like, why would I ever not want to play it for kicker? You know what I mean? This one, I think, suggests a legitimate decision, and I'm hoping that a lot of these, at least the better spectacle cards, will. So,
yeah, and like even the non-spectacle version of the card works well with things that you'll find in draft. Like it works well with all of the, I guess, it does. So it does work well with cards like in not in draft but in standard if you're still playing risk factor or something like that. Like you still have some of these advantages that you might overlap in standard when you have the is it mechanic cards? I can't jumpstart. Yes, there we go. So the only other, do you want to talk about Bedevil here?
Rakdos I'm sorry, card. We could talk about Bedevil. That's right. I thought you were going to ask. We also got a common spoiled with these. Most of the commons are pretty. Average, they're sorry, I'm not going to talk about Raptor Demon. But.
No, it is a demon that doesn't fly though, which is significant.
Yes,
that's not very common. So
no.
Except that card's a common, but but the other thing that we got, which is a spoiler from the Magic France official Facebook page, was a pretty potent removal spell called Bedevil. And that's always how I hear it in my head. So that's how, if I ever cast that card, that's what I'm going to tell people. I bedeviled you.
You hear a southern dandy in your head. All right,
oh no, I've been bedeviled.
I've been bedeviled.
But it is black, red. So pretty, heavy
color commitment.
For an instant speed removal spell that kills a creature, a planeswalker, or an artifact. So that's fairly powerful.
Yeah, Brain Hero's Downfall. They did the fusion dance, and here we go.
Yep.
If you haven't seen the art for that card as well, which is like a bunch of like devils, like just like all bedeviling somebody. I think it was cosplay artist Ashlyn Rose. I saw her tweet out that was like, oh look, it's my anxiety. And like once I saw that, I was like, yeah, that is anxiety. That is exactly what that is.
I get it now. But that card is gonna be good. Could already like probably see play in something like Jund, and it's an important rare to know about. Already like pre-selling for like $7 on Star City. So, but yeah, we had similar cards to this card in standard when we had good mana, and Jund was on the top. And again, this is kind of pushing towards that way. And then when you get better mana, and we already have a very good black-green deck that has no problems with finding lands, like you're starting to put the gears together. And Jund might be a thing again. That's all I'm trying to say.
Jund forever.
Yeah. So next up, we have the Orzhov mechanic, which is Afterlife. And Afterlife has Afterlife X, so it can be most likely typically 1, but it can be more.
I hope it's typically 1.
Well, so obviously someone has pointed, because what it says when this creature dies, put a 1/1, and it is die for sure, not leaves the battlefield.
It is die, yes.
When this creature dies, put a 1/1 black and white spirit token onto the battlefield. So it's Doom Traveler, the mechanic. Again, now it can potentially be more than 1. Like if you had a group of people that died, all right, you had a card that represented like a group of people. So like, I don't think that we're gonna have one where it's a single person represented on a card and have 2 souls, stuffed inside of it somewhere.
A little soul pinata.
Now you could have one that's like a Ghostbuster that has a bunch of souls with it.
It's a trap, is what it has.
Yeah, sure. It's like a soul pinata.
Legendary creature Walter Peck opens up the trap.
But this is a pretty cut and dry mechanic. It is good. Like this is exactly what you want. This plays into a lot of the sort of aristocrats playstyle that Black and White has had over the years, and it's just upside. And the rare that we have for it is also fairly good.
Yeah, this is Tithe Taker. generic and a white for a human soldier. It's a 2/1. During your turn, spells your opponents cast cost one more, generic one more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost generic one more to activate, unless they're mana abilities, and it has Afterlife 1. So, little taxing on your turn.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like I'm worried about where they're going to put all this, because like if every random Orzhov creature also just is a 2-for-1, man, that's really tough.
Yeah.
Like that's even in limited, that's just tough to beat, because like the spirits having flying also just like, oh man, Doom Traveler was a good card. It was very solid. And it's less good replacement is still seeing play in standard currently in Hunted Witness. So I'm interested to see what they do with this. And this mechanic is one of the ones that kind of I was like, I don't know, like. We'll see. It's certainly good, but it could be too good.
It could be, and it's kind of we're kind of left to wait and see what everything else kind of looks like once we get the whole set. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely, like just having a bunch of like 2-for-1s in your deck for free is a little concerning. Now, I wouldn't expect the creatures. I would expect the creatures at lower rarities to be more appropriately sort of costed. The rare is good, like that's just a good rate. Creature, but it is a rare, so I wouldn't expect to see a bunch of like 2/2s for 2 that, or that make just a creature when it dies.
You mean like Imperious Oligarch, a white and a black for a 2/1 creature of vigilance that has Afterlife 1?
Yeah, not all of them are going to be like that.
Okay, kind of seems like that's the mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got a spirit, right? Maybe they'll just make like a redhead and then have a soul. I don't know, man.
Wow.
That's like what, a South Park joke?
Yes, a 20-year-old South Park joke.
Yeah, no one was clearly offended by that,
except for they don't have souls anyways.
Yeah, who cares? Anyway, next up we have the Simic, and I bet you can't guess what the Simic mechanic involves. If you guess +1 counters, you were right.
You did it. You're a wizard.
You predicted it.
Possibly of the coast. I don't know. It could be.
But a lot of people obviously knew that this was going to be the case. We had the promos a little bit early, and we knew from that they were going to have a +1/+1 counter theme because of one of the rares in it. And then we knew basically when Ixalan came out and the Merfolk were blue and green and had +1/+1 counters be a heavy theme, that like, okay, well, if we're going back to Ravnica, then more than likely this is going to continue the trend. But their mechanic is called Adapt, and what it is monstrous, kind of. You pay a cost and adapt for X, and then you put X. If this and it says if this creature does not have any +1/+1 counters on it, put X +1/+1 counters on it, and then. They don't right now. Like the examples that we have, the Zagana, the something speaker,
Zagana Utopian speaker,
not a Prime speaker anymore. She doesn't step down. Just a
or
Utopian.
got pushed out. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, who knows?
So,
but hers is adapt for 4. What's the top of her cards? Actually, you just read it out. What am I?
Yeah, there
doing
you
here?
go. Zagana Utopian Speaker, 2 generic blue-green for a 4/4 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another creature with a +1/+1 counter on it, draw a card. It has Adapt 4 for 4 generic green-blue. If this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has Trample. So there's a lot of text for a card that I think is not very good.
I mean, it's a 4/4 for 4. It's not always terrible. May draw you a card.
Hasn't been good enough in a while.
I know.
That's I don't want to make an assessment. I don't know what the set looks like yet, though. But compared to what the Prime Speaker was, this is a little sad. I do think giving everything trample is powerful. We've seen that be good a couple of times. I do want to talk about Adapt a little bit, just because it seems pretty straightforward, but it got a lot of weird like social media hate. Like, I literally saw like somebody saying that like a lot of people think it's just monstrous, or fixed monstrous, which it certainly does look like that. Monstrous, once you activated it, you couldn't activate it again. Adapt you can if the counters disappear.
Right.
So that's at least interesting. But I don't know. I don't see the hate for this. Like, it's okay for them to go clean up mechanics. that they had in the past. And I think also when you're looking at like guilds, like both Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance, each guild has to have a small mechanic. They have to. There's too many mechanics in these blocks to give them this huge thing. You know what I mean? Heck, I'm surprised we're only getting one returning mechanic.
Yeah, I think that's
Like
really,
out of 10 guilds, they only have one.
That's really surprising because, and especially since there were good candidates to come back.
I agree. The design space is pretty small. So I think when you look at something like Adapt, like if you're like super upset, like one, Evolve was not good. Like I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah.
like it wasn't very good, and I don't think that Graft was either. So I know I think it's if you're a Simic player, it's probably frustrating because they keep trying to play with your design space and they're not quite hitting what you want, maybe. But I don't think Adapt is bad. I just think if you want something splashier, you have to wait till you get your own Simic set, I guess.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, and again, the best thing I like about this is it does play well with all the other like Simic mechanics. So if you have something like our friend of the show, Brian Keller has, you have Ravnica Cube, like you can draft some pretty absurd Simic decks.
Oh no, yeah, Graft, Evolve, and Adapt. They do go to. I do like how essentially the Simic keywords are building the Survivor
Correct.
logo,
Yes. Right? We're technically one mechanic away from having that catchphrase.
Yeah, we just needed what? Outwit?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh.
But yeah, it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it'll be, pretty Simic-y
Yeah,
from what we understand.
Could they have just called it monstrous? Maybe, but I think they want the idea that like within the guild, even if it's not in this set, like they can change and
Yeah.
like the counters get moved. That's a constant thing. Like no matter what version we've seen of these abilities, the counters can move.
Yeah.
And that's the point. So
And I would honestly expect that. I would expect something to do with like moving counters around
Right.
within this
that's
set.
how you show evolution.
Right, and then and that's how you are able to do things like re-trigger, adapt, or something
Exactly.
like that. Be able to adapt, whatever.
I do want to make a quick mention. I know Morgan, you said this in our chat. Aeromunculus is the common that was given. No,
My first thought was like, I think the Azorius needs to come in here and put some sanctions.
like this is
no,
it's a homunculus mutant, and I cannot tell what this thing is. It kind of looks like
I can't tell what this thing isn't.
Like it looks like a Thought Knot Seer that has big, like giant hands and wings.
It's got some frog feet.
If
I
you're
don't like it.
if you've ever beaten Chrono Trigger, it looks like one of the little Lavos things.
Yes,
like
yeah, I can see it.
oh god,
No, this is bad. And again, they need to stop asking, "Can we?" and
yeah, no,
start
like,
asking,
please.
"Should we?"
Like, there's no one in the world who's like, look what I made, and they're like, kill it now, and it's like, but no, it's really look at it, it's alive, and I'm like, I don't care, murder it.
It's bad though. All right, next up we have my boys and girls
And Gruels.
and Gruels. The Gruel Guild with Riot.
Oh,
So
man.
they're big into punk music right now.
Did you see? I think Cedric Phillips may have tweeted like Paramore jokes already
Yeah.
like 9 times about
Oh, yeah,
this, so it's
100%.
all right.
But Riot is awesome. So Riot reads Riot. And this creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 counter or haste. And you can read the rare that we have as an example.
Gruel Spellbreaker is 1 generic red-green for a 3/3 Ogre Warrior. It has Riot, Trample, and as long as it's your turn, you and Gruel Spellbreaker have Hexproof, which is the coolest line of text. All the people already making all the memes of just like, oh, settle the wreckage? No.
Yeah.
Not today.
I heard people like, oh, this is Wizard saying like, oh, maybe some of the records was a bit much.
I want to make one thing as we talk about Riot here, because this card I think is very good.
Yes.
I think Riot is the best of these 5 mechanics, in my opinion.
It does what you want it to do.
And again, I saw people saying like, "Oh, this is just different Unleash." Yeah, it is. Again, but this is perfect. This is Chef's Kiss Unleash.
Yeah.
The creature doesn't lose haste, right? Because it also got compared to Tribute a little bit, and the card that came to mind was Fanatic of Xenagos.
Yes.
Right, which either got a counter or I think it gained haste until end of turn. Mm-hmm. These don't gain haste until end of turn.
They just get haste.
They just get haste, which I know may sound odd, but there are some timing issues with that at points. So it just has that on its card, which is interesting. It may never come up, but it is cool. But I think Riot is sweet.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to sell me very hard on it. I like playing red-green aggressive decks. I have for quite some time, and this is an aggressive mechanic, so it sets me up for what the guild's going to be. And
This is a 3-mana 4/4. This is why Zagana can't be okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. I get you. But it's interesting because if you put a 1/1 counter on it, Zagana does give it trample that it already has.
It already has. I guess you get to draw a card.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, this card's pretty good. And it's a lot. Like this card's good. Riot is good because again, it gives you a choice, and people don't get to like react to it. It's not enter the battlefield like trigger. It either has a counter or has haste when it already hits, which is super important if you're trying to like dodge a burn spell or something like that.
100%. I think like this is going to lead to like this mechanic leads to interesting combat and to interesting board states, right? Like if you know that if you're playing in a pseudo mirror, right? You've got to really start thinking like turns down the road because more creatures are going to have haste.
Yeah,
and that's good. So,
yeah, and like it's again a lot of these, these modal mechanics always seem to rise to the top. People like having choice when they're playing their card games, and especially a modal aggressive sort of thing. I think it is kind of disappointing because it's only going to be on creatures, so Gruul doesn't get anything with spells, but it makes sense within the guild.
Yeah, it does.
And then the last and weirdest mechanic comes from the Azorius with Addendum. So Jordan, I'm sure, is like thrilled that he can get to say Addendum a bunch during Magic play. But Addendum basically is going to be definitely on instance, but could potentially be on like a flash creature. Theoretically, basically, Addendum gives a spell a bonus if it is cast during your main phase.
And I want to read you the actual text about this because it's really interesting. Addendum is a new ability word. Ability words don't have any inherent rules meaning, so Addendum is more of a label than anything else. So it's barely a mechanic. Like it is a mechanic in the loosest sense of the word.
Sure.
I think our friend of the show, Brian Keller, called it careful considerations, the mechanic.
Yeah. No, it's that was Dave. Dave said careful.
Oh, it was Dave. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to misattribute. But
and then
Keller's just showing their fun.
This is also like the faded cards.
That is also yeah. There's a lot of Theros comparisons, and I apologize. I know people have been losing their minds about that. Like again, I think it's okay for them to go back and fix mechanics if it makes them better. And
yeah,
this isn't. I guess
because they didn't change it. It's just those things.
I think like this is. We were worried about how good the Azorius could be. You already have Teferi in standard, so you have to be careful with how good you make blue-white, because blue-white's already being played, despite the fact that it's not even a guild being supported right now. So the way that you weaken it is you take all their good instants, and you say, well, but if you play it on your turn, it's better. Please?
But see, like, even that argument kind of falls apart a little bit, because Teferi almost wants you to play cards on your, on your main phase, because you get to untap lands.
That's true.
So
we should read... the card here.
Yeah, the Azorius Guild got a mythic rare.
Yes. Emergency powers.
I am the Senate.
The attack on my life has left me scarred.
We gotta stop it, or Disney, the mouse is gonna kick down our door.
5 generic blue-white for an instant. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. Exile emergency powers. So we get a time twister at instant speed. Addendum. If you cast a spell during your main phase, you may put a permanent card with a converted mana cost 7 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. And I think what's cool here is so your art depicts Dovin Bond, who's going to be essentially taking over the Azorius Senate.
Yeah, he is. There's a flavor text for the common that definitely refers to him as the Grand Arbiter.
Yeah, 100%. And he's also getting a Planeswalker deck. So like,
yes,
we already know he's here.
Yes.
And the image he is conjuring up on the Senate floor definitely is the Bolas Orange. So who you're shouting out for 7 is Bolas. So, which is awkward because like the Bolas you want to get technically costs 8, but that's fine. I guess we're going God Pharaoh now. But,
yeah.
So a cool idea. Time Twisters are always weird cards. We've seen some of them see play. What was the one from the core set that saw some play? The one that it ended the turn.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember it now, but the ability for a control deck to at the end of a turn all of a sudden draw 7 cards is pretty scary. Granted, they're giving you 7 cards, but and getting a free permanent out of it is a thing. But I don't know. This seems like a culmination. Like this is a mishmash of things, like including the spells from Kaladesh, where you got to like tack on a spell to like risk the expertises.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
got
yeah.
to do that too. I don't know. Addendum feels very very weak to me. Out of all of these, addendum seems like the least that has identity wise, it doesn't feel bad. Like I get that's what the Azorius would do. They want to tack on legislation to their stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it's barely a mechanic. So
I'll agree with you. It'll be interesting if they have like anything that exists that references the keyword outside of it. I want there to be like a flash creature that has this on it
that would be a cool idea for sure.
because that's how you make it a little bit more interesting. Is like you expand people's ideas. Like just having this on a bunch of instants like feels a little bit limited when it could be more. Like the Gruul mechanic can only go on creatures. Like that's fine, but that's what the Gruul wants it to do. But the Azorius are capable of having flash creatures that have this.
Yeah, I think the other card that we got here is it tells me a little bit more about what they want to do with it, and it's certainly not exciting to me. But is Sphinx's Insight is the card that Morgan already referred to. Is 2 generic blue white for an instant, draw 2 cards. Addendum: if you cast it during your main phase, you gain 2 life. So it's inspiration. Technically worse inspiration because it's 2 colors, and if you cast on a turn, you gain 2 life. And like that to me seems like the most generic way to make this mechanic, and also the least interesting thing you can do. So
Yeah.
Again, as I just said, these mechanics have to be smaller, because of the nature of the guilds. So I get that by criticizing this, I'm also like subverting my previous point. But Addendum feels pretty uninspired, and the Azorius keep getting. I don't know. I like Detain. I thought Detain was good for the Azorius. Maybe it doesn't make sense in this block,
Right?
like, because they're being like the Azorius's like legislative control is being usurped. So like their military, like their police presence is before it was all about, what's her name now? Lavinia.
Lavinia, yeah.
We do have a Lavinia, which we're going to talk
Yeah,
about
we're
her in a
gonna talk
minute.
about
But so I get it, but I don't know. I think it's just tough for. I think the Azorius have such a cool idea, and like the whole concept of like law magic is something that I think is really interesting. We saw that with oh no, I'm going to forget the Sphinx's name, Azor, duh, because it's Azorius,
Yeah.
and like hieromancy and all. I think that's all like that is very interesting, and I think like because of the nature of these blocks, the Azorius keep getting sort of shoehorned into situations where like, it's better than like what Foretold, is that what it was?
Forecast.
Forecast, which was awful and didn't have anything to do with the Azorius. But
Right.
I don't know. If you like this one, that's fine. But again, I think like the thing that frustrates me for this is again barely a mechanic. Like when this is seen play before, like you say Fated or Careful Considerations, Might of Old Crosa, they didn't even bother giving it a mechanic. It's just something that it did. It was just a cycle of cards. So.
See, I really wanted Detain to come back because I wanted the Azorius to be more aggressive, and that's how you counteract it being too good compared with
Control decks and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's fair.
So you slanted to be more aggressive because Detain feels like an aggressive mechanic to me in the first place. You want to be attacking when you're detaining things, in my opinion.
They already made the perfect Detain card, though.
Yeah, I know.
Light of Sky Knight was like,
yeah, that's great.
oh my god, that card is great.
That's a good card, but just bring it back. I do expect though that this guild will have, with Dovin Bond taking it over, will have a lot of artifacts. Not a lot of artifacts, but
it has to have something.
I think it has. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what it has. I think like there are ways to make this interesting, and even like Sam Stodd, who obviously works for Wizards, was talking about how they wanted to do something for blue white that encouraged people to still be able to play their instants, which is what blue white is the best at a lot of the times, and then also have something as a bonus for when you like get control over the board and you don't mind tapping out on your main phase to cast some of these spells. But I don't know. I don't know how effective they were. I agree with Mike. This is kind of just the lame duck mechanic. But it makes sense because they couldn't push Zorius that hard, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think flavor-wise, all of the mechanics do a pretty good job.
Yes.
Again, I think overall, are they a little more bland than what we've seen in the past? I think so. Afterlife will feel forgettable. Adapt will probably feel forgettable, even if they see play. But, again, when you're dealing with these small sections, it's what we have. So, but I think there's some good stuff here. Again, Riot is just very sweet, and I'm very excited for Riot. And I think like Spectacle it has a lot of promise if what we've seen. And like I said, we're gonna look at a couple other cards with it too. So The only other thing we got in that in the article this week that is we did get confirmation, which makes sense, that we will have split cards. I'm assuming we'll probably have similar cycles to what we had last time, where we'll have a cycle of uncommons and a cycle of rares.
Yeah.
But we got Incubation and Incongruity, which is a Simic split card. Incubation is a sorcery for a hybrid blue-green. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And an Incongruity is generic blue-green for an instant. Exile target creature. That creature's controller creates a 3/3 green frog lizard creature token. So it's rapid hybridization. I like that card.
Yeah.
It's got things it can do. So, but I think it's cool just to know that we're getting those back.
Yeah, I mean, like, what? That's just technically a better commune with nature as well, I believe.
Commune could get lands.
Yeah, I think the people were trying to make the argument that it's better because it can have something else attached to it. That's what I was trying to figure out, but people were talking about that potentially being something for, like, spirits in Modern.
Oh,
just because it's like
just because you have, like, a removal spell attached to it. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So promos. We got all of them. We know what the promos are going to be looking like. We have our buy box promo, which this is I have to say, good on you, Wizards. This card didn't break any walls here. It is a legendary creature. Apparently, it's the Haunt of the High Tower. It is a generic 4 black for a legendary creature vampire. It's a 3/3. It has flying and lifelink. It says whenever the Haunt of the High Tower attacks, defending player discards a card. And it says whenever a card is put to an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, putting 1/1 counter on the Haunt of the High Tower.
Okay, you gotta stop. It's just the Haunt of High Tower.
The Haunt of High Tower.
I kept letting it go, but there's no second the.
And I know. I get it now. Yeah, that card's not great.
No, it's bad. So good job.
Congratulations.
You went so hard in reverse now that why would you? I guess whatever. Okay.
The worm was good. Was not good either. So like
That's
they've figured it out. I think making it crappy creatures
again. But like then like what's whatever.
we're
not doing this again. We're not.
Nope.
We're just
moving on. This next promo though is pretty exciting, and it kind of confirms that we're probably going to get more of the XXYY mana cost creatures. So this is the Rakdos one. So it's black, red. But you can read the rest of it.
Rakdos Firewheeler is a 4/3 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target opponent and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Yeah, I really like this card.
Rakdos.
It does a lot.
Rakdos rides again.
Like this is a 4/3 that essentially has a most of a Searing Blaze attached to it. So, yeah, I like this card a lot.
Yes. Next up, we have Simic Ascendancy. This is sort of the card that was a loot that we saw these before we got the actual Simic mechanics, so we kind of knew +1 positive counters was going to be a big deal. It is blue-green for an enchantment, and it says has an activated ability of 1 blue-green, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. And it says whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many on growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game.
Yeah, somebody's going to beat me with that card at F&M, and I'm going to
throw 100%.
Throw my deck against
just
the wall.
100%. Yeah, this is like, kind of falls in line with the fun ways to win the game sort of thing. And again, like, it could be fun if you ever Ravnica a cube. Just saying. Because, like, that's Graft, did them entering the battlefield... Would Simic Ascendancy see that?
I don't know. I think so.
Because that's dumb. Or could potentially be dumb.
Yeah, I think so.
But all of their mechanics work very well with that card. So, yeah, put that in your Rav Cube and have people tell out by losing to Simic Ascendancy.
Well, so, like, we had that before. So if you had, what's the green...
You're thinking of...
The green add a counter enchantment. Why can't I think of it now?
Are you thinking of Pinnacle? Like, Helix Pinnacle or something?
No,
like
no,
that?
The Affinity deck currently plays this card. Why can't I think of it?
Oh, yeah, I know. Hardened Scales.
Thank you. So Hardened Scales added counters to things like the XX Eldrazi, right?
Yeah, as well as things like Walking Ballista.
And that says enters the battle, or whenever counters are placed on, add more, right? So, yes. Graft makes it. Yeah, it would see those.
That's pretty good.
So,
next up, we have Gate Colossus.
We don't got to talk about Gate Colossus.
Right. It's an uncommon.
It's an 8/8 for 8 that like you encourage to play Gates. It'll be my battle box because screw it, the Gates are awesome.
Because you have all the Gates. Yeah, man. And then we have some F&M promos. I believe these are all Yeah, they're all off-item promos. Yeah. It's just one was a common for. So we have Growth Spiral, which again the Seb McKinnon art is pretty good, good. Blue green instant. Draw a card. You would put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield.
So two Growth Spirals.
Two Growth Spirals, but instant speed is like a pretty good deal. Obviously,
Explorer was instant speed too.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But
I think I broke your brain.
You can take the next one for this is the first time we saw Spectacle.
Yeah, so this is the card I was alluding to before. Light Up the Stage is 2 generic and a red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards, but it has a Spectacle for 1 red.
Yeah,
and this card I think is real spicy because like it gives you
an addition sorcery.
Was it?
Yes.
I thought it was an instant.
No, because why would they put that at sorcery speed? It just says you can play an additional land card this turn.
Yeah, but that's essentially what Growth Spiral says. It's literally the same card.
You could put a land into play. That's different. You could put a land into play at instant speed.
You're right.
That.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Anyways, though, Light Up the Stage. Man, because you get to keep them until your next turn.
Yeah.
Like you can like spend like the last mana on your turn, setting up like your next turn, and like then your opponent just has to stare at those wonderful cards you have in exile. It's like, hey, those cards, I'm gonna cast them next turn.
They coming.
I don't know if it's good enough or not because when you can't cast it, it's still probably fine. But
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says play those cards too, so like you can get land drops off of this. Man, I like this card. This is a really cool design.
Yeah, I understand that you like putting cards in exile and just being able to play them.
Yeah, I don't know why. Okay, Chandra and I go way back.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
This card's also going in the battle box because these are the red effects I need in my life. So, and then we got an old favorite.
Yeah, we got Mortify back. So it's 1 generic black-white, and it's an instant speed, destroy targeted creature and enchantment. And hey, there are plenty of creatures and enchantments in current standard that are worth killing.
Yeah, we didn't get Putrefy this time, but we got Mortify. So
yeah, and like when Putrefy was in standard, it saw play, and I expect this to fully see play as well. It's a pretty powerful card, and things like just being able to kill like a Search for Azaganta and not feeling like it's a dead card game 1 versus like your control opponent probably feels pretty good.
And then we got one more card. So we got some lands for the Ravnica weekend.
Yeah, obviously the promo lands for the other 5 guilds are going to be available if you want them. But
we got the store championship promo, which is our friend Lavinia, Azorius Renegade. She has gotten a little bit smaller.
I'm going to say first of all Flavorfell because she's not a rebel. And she definitely should be.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Oh, man. They're really careful about that, though.
I know, but
hey, you can't awaken sleeping giants. And Lynn Sivvy is just sitting there waiting for new rebels. She's like, come.
Come to me.
So white-blue for a 2/2 legendary creature, human soldier. Each opponent cat.
Can't cast.
Meow. Can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. This card is an interesting little hate bear. So let's see the things that it stops. It turns off Tron.
Yep.
It turns off Miracles for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, unless you have 6 lands, that Terminus ain't costing 1.
Right.
So, but if you do have 6 lands, then that Terminus does cost 1.
Yes.
So that's interesting. It also counters like obviously, like Moxen, which is interesting. It does a lot of really interesting things. If you get whatever ways you can cast free spells, I guess if you do emergency powers, she can stop it. The addendum part, right?
Yeah. As long as it says cast.
I have to go back and make sure
I don't know if
cast.
it says cast.
It may say put into play.
Right.
This is interesting.
All those hideaway lands?
Yeah.
Get wrecked, son.
Yeah, that is interesting. Does this... No, because it doesn't do that. So, yeah, I don't know where... Now, so I think storyline-wise, it's interesting. Lavinia, if you don't remember, Lavinia was this... she was a fairly prominent role in the Azorius Guild, but she essentially befriended Jace and sort of became his personal liaison.
Yes.
And she knows a lot more than... And she's just kind of great. Every single time Lavinia is around, she does a lot more than Jace does, and she's very professional. But I think that's like one of the things she struggled with is being so professional. So I think to see her now as this renegade, like, one, we know Asperia is dead. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, granted, we're getting the novel soon. I can't wait to read it. But Assassin's Trophy tells us Asperia is dead. We know that Dovahn is going to take over the Azorius Senate. I want like Lavinia here is seen like looking through some like broken like wooden like slats across
Yeah.
a window. Like I want to know what she's like. How does that make Lavinia the character feel? Where she's like, I am a cop, and now I'm a cop on the run, and I want to see this movie where she's a hardened cop on the edge.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I think this card's interesting. They're like this and the Orzhov hate bear that we got kind of it puts a lot of like weird like taxing abilities into like modern potentially. I don't know how effective like this card is going to be in standard. We don't necessarily see a lot of things that like this card really lends itself to defending against, but modern there's a lot of them. There's a lot of 0 CMC cards that just like get cast. Now obviously this is 2 mana and those are 0, so maybe you don't catch them, but it does.
I mean, this makes what, like, if you have this in play, it's good against Tron and Modern.
Yeah.
Right? It also makes it really hard for decks like Ironworks to win.
Yes.
So, I don't know if it earns it a slot or not, but it does. It seems like a different like we open the drawer and say, okay, which Gaddock Teague costume do we want to wear today?
Yeah.
So,
it certainly is interesting. This promo looks really cool.
yeah, it does.
Yeah, and it kind of the actual flavor text on the original on the actual like in pack one is pretty interesting because it talks about how like Jace has like shirked his duties as the Living Guild Pact, and now things are falling to crap because of it. Now, not all of it was necessarily his fault, but it's basically his fault, all of it.
Yeah, a little bit.
So that's everything for Ravnica Allegiance.
Hold on.
We do have some packaging to talk about.
I want to talk about the packaging. I can't believe you don't want to talk about your packaging.
It's got my boy on it.
Because you got to first look at your little punch boy.
my little Riot boy, as it were.
He looks so. So we get a bunch of the planeswalkers on our art here, but we get Domirad.
Yep.
And I don't know if you know, so that's Morgan. It's like, I'm a Chandra fan when it comes to planeswalkers. Morgan and Domri, they're like best friends.
There are so many times where like I'm looking through Modern and I just type in like Domri Raid and just see what decks are playing Domri Raid. And I go, maybe I'll consider it. But knowing that he is going to get a new card in Standard makes me pretty excited.
I honestly, it's cool to see him get a new card. I'd be also okay with a
straight reprint. Please.
They're not going to do it because they've got to detail his new role.
Yeah, but I know. I want it to be though, because that card is just like, can you just give him a new name, but it be the same card? No one's gonna want to play 8 of them. Come on.
But yeah, so there you go. Punch Boy's coming.
Punch Boys are coming. Fists of flailing. We also know that Kaya from the Ghost Assassin, the Ghostbuster is coming.
Yeah, she's coming to kill the
presumably bust some ghosts.
Yep. Again, I think Tace is gonna hire her to kill her uncles. The Ghost Council.
I don't think they're all her uncle.
It's a collective uncling.
Fair enough, I guess.
This is my collective uncles: Carl, Bob, Jeff, Stan.
So next up, past Ravnica Allegiance, we do have the initial Magic Pro League. So we have the MPL players. And it primarily, I'm not going to read all their names. It's primarily, how the top 32 looked back in September when they last updated like the top 25 players. So most of those players are in there. We have some players that declined or did fall off out of that ranking. I think it was the top 32 as it stood, minus someone who minus 2 people. I think someone declined it and moved someone up, and then maybe someone declined it and Li Shitian was picked for the APAC for his region.
Yeah, for region. Yeah, because it wasn't the next Pro Point Wise. The next Pro Point Wise would have been Burkhart, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a couple of interesting things on this list. Again, we don't have to read through all the players. One, no LSV. Some of that has to do with Direwolf, I think, more than anything.
I don't. Is he in the top 32?
No, but I think they would have pushed because of his year-long absence. But I think because there was another player too who had made mention of it, and I think there's some with Direwolf there that would make sense not to do that.
Yeah.
And also I do also want to mention that it's interesting and annoying that Marcio Carvalho is on this list, and I don't know if WotC's ever going to get it, but they certainly still don't get it. So there's who's the other person who's doing some streaming for them? He got some heat.
That was what, Raynad?
Yeah, Raynad. Yep. I get it. You want people's numbers, you want everything else, but like if you keep saying that cheating's okay, then you're going to keep getting cheaters. And I understand that you can't cheat on Arena, so maybe you just don't care, right?
You can't cheat on Arena. Arena is still in beta. I was definitely playing Arena today, and for some reason, I could always see the top card of my library in this weird mirror match that I had with this. I was playing a Sultai control deck. My opponent was playing Dimir control. I don't know what happened with the game and when this started happening, but I kept noticing, like, why I have a woodland cemetery on top of my library. Why can't I see that? I don't have anything that would allow me to do that.
So you're saying you did cheat?
The game, the program allowed me to. I don't know what to tell you.
No, that's fair. I think it's weird. Like I'm glad to see this list. The article that we are referencing actually comes from ESPN.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
when's the last time Magic's been on ESPN?
The 90s.
Years and years.
When you had those sweet, if you have never seen, go look up the sweet ESPN Magic commercials.
Yes.
Those are great. But no, like I think like I added this with it because like there was another article that the actual mothership linked to, but it was Red Bull, an article from Red Bull talking about esports arena. You know, we had Cedric Phillips on this podcast 2 or 3 years ago at this point talking about how if Magic wants to stay relevant and move into the arena, it has to go for sponsors. You know, I mean, we watched Star City go and get Ultimate Guard, and we've seen them try and do some things with that, and some local sponsorships when they've done their SEG cons. I think for WotC to be looking at potential partners, even like a Red Bull who'd be excited about something like that, that's a huge deal and is certainly a big push into relevance. Now, I'm not saying they announced anything with Red Bull, but I think for like those places to be talking about this, we talked about our last episode, and I'm trying to remember what outlet I had referenced. I don't remember what website I had referenced, but maybe it was Kotaku. I don't remember, but I don't think it was Kotaku.
I can't remember.
But,
I know what you're talking about.
There were a couple websites that are now talking about Magic and an arena that just would never write an article about Magic, and I think that's interesting. So, So I think that lends to at least whether or not it's. Here's the thing: I still can't tell until this all starts actually functioning and we see what it's going to look like. This could all be like the Emperor having new clothes, and I don't know what that means. But for now, there's certainly some groundswell and there's some buzz, and I think it's really cool.
I think so too. And you even like our next thing is like Red Bull having like Magic articles. Red Bull is a huge sponsor in the esports. Like they have sponsorships with teams and everything like that. And it's important to have these people like actually taking notice of Magic. And I think that is a direct response to WotC taking it seriously and really trying to put their best foot forward. I know that's very hard for them to do sometimes, but put their best foot forward into this realm. And with the attention that they are getting with it is pretty positive to see. So we'll keep an eye on it and keep on reporting on it, and so we'll see what happens in the new year. So. But that's everything for the community. Before we jump into competitive and talk about some decks, we definitely want to give a shout out to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. They are going to be running a Modern Invitational Qualifier on Saturday, December 29th. It's going to be a $35 entry fee with a noon start. So if you want to go sling some cards over the here in the States, the holiday weekend, definitely check out Comic Town. And if you want to find out some more about their events, you can check them out on Facebook at Comic Town Gaming Center or go to worldofcomictown.com. So, competitive. The first thing I see on here is that someone named Mike won a 1K with Mono Red Phoenix that he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I did. That's
literally
weird.
over the World Cup, literally over the Invitational, and over GP. But we're going to talk about you first. Now I get it.
Yeah, it's my show. Like what? Like it's our show, but it's
I get it.
Show.
I just own the equipment.
First off, I want to say shout out to it was Sleek Geeks, which is a store I've gone to a couple times now around here, and it was a good time. And also to local L2 Aaron Hammer, who has been doing a pretty great job, at least in our local area, keeping PPTQs alive and running these this event here that doesn't this was just a random 1K. It wasn't an invitational or anything like that. So or like a qualifier or anything like that. So I think that with some of the anxiety about what may or may not be happening, especially in the local judge scene, depending on how Mythic Championship qualifiers and all these things work out. shout out to a guy who's really worked hard to fill a void left by some, a prominent friend of the show who left the region a little while ago. So thank you, Mr. Hammer. If you don't, you wanted me to talk about this tournament, so I wanted to make sure. But yeah, so I've been really playing a lot of the Mono Red Phoenix deck we've talked about the last couple weeks. That's the deck that I've been playing on Magic Online in various builds, and I took it to a paper tournament for a couple of reasons. One, because I need the paper practice. I did this last year too when we had the Comic Town Championship or the championship at the end of the year, where I'd played Mono Red, like Bomat Red, for a long time on Moto, but like had to remember to like actually physically acknowledge my Bomat Courier triggers. So I was like, all right, I need to go get some hand reps with this deck. And just because I thought it was pretty solid. And I ended up winning the thing, which was pretty nice. It was 40-some players. Had a couple of interesting idiosyncrasies. I definitely beat Bant Spirits round 1 and the same Bant Spirits player in the finals, which was pretty hilarious for that. So he in the finals, he was like, well, he got game 2, and he's like, all right, this is Rocky. This is it. I'm coming back. I'm going to do this. And I was like, this is not Rocky. It's not Rocky.
That's not how this is going to work, friendo.
No, I had a pretty good day with it. I beat Bant Spirits twice. I beat Humans twice. I beat Infect. I lost to Tron in the actual main rounds. I beat Jeskai Control as well. I beat Jeskai Control with the so I played. We're going to talk about the Invitational. I played the main list from the Invitational with some of the different sideboard options. But I've really liked Desperate Ritual of Blood Moon, and Desperate Ritual has been a key to I think unlocking some of the deck. And turn 2ing a Blood Moon against Jeskai Control was pretty good.
Yeah, it can just be lights out.
It was. So there was that. But we talked a bunch about how that deck was kind of the next big thing, and how obviously either Mono Red Phoenix or Is It Phoenix is something you need to prepare for. And I went into that room with a lot of people who were prepared for Phoenix. I top aided a Blue Red Phoenix player. I top aided and a
Grixis?
a Hollow One.
Oh, Hollow One.
Hollow
Okay.
One build top aided. And now we said we were trying to figure out which one was the best one. Well, I figured it out.
I think you just have such an affinity with mono red decks that
You're not wrong. So it's funny because Dave, former host of the show, talked about like he spent a long time trying to make sure he could play every blue red deck in Modern. Like he just kept acquiring cards, and I started doing that minus the blue part. I can play pretty much every red deck in the format, and it's like Scred Dragons. Yeah, sure, why not? I have that. Oh, Phoenix. Yeah, okay, sure, why not? I have that. So 8-Whack. Yeah, sure, why not? I have that. So apparently I've decided to do that. I wore my red shirt, like my red mana symbol shirt, which is like, this is aggressive. I don't care.
this is pretty upfront.
I'm not gonna lie, I felt pretty great to take like the winner picture with like the red mana symbol. It's like every single person knew it was coming. But here's the thing I want to mention with that. I'm joking about it a little bit, but there was a lot of hate in the room. Like I had to fight through a lot of interesting sideboard cards, and just people prepared for the strategy, and it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that I drew well in a number of places, and I do think that like there's room for me with how many reps I have to have outplayed a number of opponents. But I think that the thing is key is I think a lot of people assume that the deck just rolls over to like graveyard hate or this or that. You've really got to play carefully with it. And I think that I really like the red version because of how many board states burn spells that you get out of in general. But I also think that people just are not sure how to sideboard with the deck. I had an opponent, I think it might have been an F&M before, I'm not sure. But I definitely had an opponent who like bordered in Damping Sphere against me and also kept in paths, right? Which is like fine until like I never had an issue with it. And they're like, oh, well, I'm like, well, if you are trying to path my creatures and I have to play a slower game because of Matrix, then I said eventually I can still chain spells together. It's not going to stop it.
Yeah.
And all it does is hamper them. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was during the tournament. That was the other one I played was against like Abzan mid range. So it's cards like that where like I feel like if you just sat down with a deck, you'd go, oh well, I can't beat this card. But if you actually play around the sideboard cards, you could learn how to play around and get around them. People just assume you'll never cast a Bedlam Reveler after certain cards are in play, but that's not true. And Desperate Ritual helps with that a lot. Splicing that is a real line you take a fair amount of times. But
that makes sense.
I think the deck is pretty robust, and like I'm going to be playing with Dave and another friend of the show, Elliot, for the Open in January, the first week in there, and I'm pretty much locked on this deck. I've got so many reps in with it, and that tournament was pretty affirming, where it was just like I kind of just walked through, and I really enjoy this deck because there are so many different. Yeah, sometimes you have the draws. Sometimes you have the draws where your turn 1 or turn 2 you have a number of Phoenixes. I only got to turn 1 double Phoenix once, but that was pretty sweet. It's like Faithless Looting, discard, got shot, attack you. It feels very good.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
But like the games too, where you're sort of navigating and you've got to like play around with Graveyard Hate and the pressure that they have, and just I think the deck's very fun and very resilient. And again, if you keep thinking that Phoenix is just going to die at this point, I think that's just not true.
Yeah, it's just
I think it has firmly established itself as part of the metagame.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think like it with it being in the metagame and people trying to do it, it opens up other decks to become in and be successful. So I think that's perfectly fine.
Also, shout out to my friend, Young Pyromancer.
Holding it down.
That was the sideboard option I went with to combat more the graveyard like centric decks, or in Graveyard Hate, I should say. And they've been great both on Magic Online and also in paper. But it just feels really good because like it's the same Young Pyromancers from like the Big Boros back in the day,
from way back,
signed by Cynthia Shepard. And it's just like
I still have mine.
Every time I cast them, and I get like, and you can do like Manamorphose things with them, and I'm just like, this is how you were meant to live. This is your best life, Young Pyromancer. So, but yeah, it was a fun tournament, and I'm pretty excited to push forward with it. So
yeah, cool. All right,
so that's our show.
We're done now. So next up, we actually are going to quickly talk about the World Magic Cup. It is the last World Magic Cup for the foreseeable future, and we
let the French win it.
Well, they've done it before.
Way to go, USA!
So yeah, there was one by Team France. And one of the people on that team is going to be in the Magic Pro League, as it stands. So that's pretty exciting. I think it's Depraz Jean Emmanuel, I believe, is going to be actually in the MPL.
Nice.
But there's a lot of different decks. This is unified standard, if I'm not mistaken, for the teams. They defeated Team Israel, so captained by Shahar Shenhar. So again, congrats and condolences to Team Israel for taking second place, especially during the last one. But they had a pretty good run as well. There are a lot of different decks you can kind of take a look at here. The only one I really did want to kind of talk about is the one piloted by Hawk Miller. I don't know if it's Arnaud Hawk Miller or Hawk Miller Arnaud, but it is a Jeskai control deck, but it's a little bit different in kind of how it operates. A lot of the elements are the same, but the real kind of big thing that this deck can do is 20 people out of nowhere with the combination of Fight with Fire Kicked and expansion from Expansion Explosion. And that was sort of the main way that this deck kind of operated during the entirety of the tournament. And, we can see things like Revitalize kind of showing up as a way to, gain some life and, kind of keep ahead of like an aggressive deck and, power through your deck, make all your land drops. And, this is a pretty interesting take with this deck. The other fun thing in here is in the enchantments list. It's one of Mirari's Conjecture, which is, if you don't know, what are they called? Oh my gosh, the actual card type of what they sagas. Okay, it's a saga.
I was like looking around the room. I'm like, I don't know where the answer is, bud.
I'm trying to find it for you. It's a saga that reads. First chapter is return instant from your graveyard to your hand. Then a second chapter is return a sorcery, and then the last chapter is all your spells are doubled. So that's also another way how you can
fight with fire
to kill your opponent. And I just think like this is an interesting take on how you can play sort of this Jeskai control list and actually have a way to kind of kill your opponent out of nowhere. And then you still have a lot of other ways to end the game. You still have your Teferis. You actually have an Aral, which is another way to sort of power through your deck. And I just think like it's kind of an interesting take, something that you might not have seen previous to the World Cup showing up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is a big deal with this is the lesser focus on, and we saw this with the Adrian Sullivan list, but the less are focused on counter magic in general. Like this list only has 5 pieces of counter magic in it: 3 ionize, 1 negate, 1 syncopate. And as you mentioned, revitalize. I think it's hilarious that we're only 1 rotation away from like Renewed Faith saw 0 play as a reprint, but revitalize is now in a bunch of decks. Like 1 life makes a difference. But I think, when you look at this, like it's just trying to set up into one of these larger threats. And I think like Fight with Fire is so interesting because so many of these decks get used to playing around like Set of the Wreckage, which he obviously has, or these various Wrath effects. But like the pinpoint ability, because like kicking the Fight with Fire to kill your opponent is a thing, but like being able to just like pick and choose on a battlefield what to do is also a huge thing. So
and there are just times where sometimes you just need to kill something that has a big butt.
It also kills planeswalkers.
Yeah,
which is it's something that like a lot of these, especially the Golgari decks will sit behind planeswalkers. Like that's their way. Like, okay, like you can deal with my creatures while I'm going to sit here with these Vraskas or this Vivian Reed, or I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, here's my removal spell that kills everything. That's why Star of Extinction has been so helpful. Not obviously also because of Carnage Tyrant. Don't get me wrong, but I think that I like this list a lot. I mean, I just like Fight with Fire, but I think like this is a cool take on it. And I think like when you are, this is one of the, if you look at this deck and you know how people are used to playing against control, right? Like he gets a lot of, especially in a high profile tournament where players are trying to like next level each other. He gets a lot of bonus points for not following the same play patterns a normal Jeskai deck does, because people are going to fall into their habits against Jeskai control. Well, what if he has a counter here? What if he has this? Well, honestly, he probably didn't. You know what I mean? But you start playing like you're playing against Jeskai control against him, and then when he does have it, the one time it just affirms everything you ever thought. So I really like this version of the deck, and kudos.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Anything else from the World Magic Cup that you thought worthy to bring up?
No, I do want to. The only thing I will mention is if you looked here, the Drake's decks, which were very, very popular. Shahar Senhar played Izzet Drake's. His build of Izzet Drake's is literally 50 ticks on Magic Online right now. Nice. So just saying, I understand that you may not want to do that, but I do want to make mention that almost all of them have gone away from Phoenix. Like they are now, It is now literally Izzet Drake's, not Izzet Phoenix, which is a big deal. And I think based on what we've seen, we thought maybe that Rakdos might, if it was Madness, maybe. But based on what we've seen with all of the Ravnica Allegiance mechanics, it'll be interesting to see if Phoenix gets any more cards for Standard. I doubt that it does, at least for a while.
Yeah.
So this might be the build for a little while. Not that it could, it could only take one spell to really make Phoenix come back. But right now, it just seems like the better cards are just playing the Protected Drake. They either have some of them are Murmuring Mystics with them. They're all playing main deck visits. Like that archetype has officially fully shifted.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Cool. Let's shift over to the Invitational. So the Invitational was a little bit snowy this year, a little bit cold, little bit some canceled events, unfortunately.
A little bit of some canceled events.
But let's talk about the final the final top 8 that was held on Sunday, and the decks that it consists of. So it was won by Andrew Jessup, playing Ironworks to many people's chagrin. Defeating Evan Whitehouse playing Dredge. So it seems like a fun finals there. We also have Gerard Fabiano playing Jund in 3rd place, and Austin Collins, another Ironworks player, in 4th. Finishing out the top 8, we have Mono-Red Phoenix, piloted by Marshall Arthurs. Izzet Phoenix, piloted by Justin Gebbing. Storm, piloted by Zachary Keen. Yeah. I was trying to see if that was an L or an I. So Keen, and then Bant Spirits, piloted by Daniel Jessup. So both two Jessups in the top 8 there. And I think they had I don't know if they had to play against each other in the top 8 or not.
I'm not sure.
I think they did though.
So I do know. I think Andrew Jessup is his Twitter handle is the better Jessup, and he won.
It makes sense. Makes sense. But yeah, I think a lot of people were worried that there was going to be an Ironworks finals in the end, the top 8, which would have been pretty miserable. But we do see that Ironworks shows up and really shows its supremacy. So
yeah, looking at this top 8 too, like they're just really there really wasn't a deck in this top 8 that was really geared to really beat Ironworks consistently. I like the Red Phoenix deck, but the Ironworks matchup is a pure race. You can move your sideboard towards it a little bit, but it's a pure race. So I think that's the same with Storm. It's a pure race, and I think the Ironworks ends up being a little bit faster most of the time. So Ironworks continues to upset me from the ways that it is able to combo off when I play against it online, where it's like, okay, well, if they have exactly this and they had it, or they found it,
they're doing it. Oh look, I'm dead.
Yeah, I think that's there. And I think it's funny if Andrew Jessup's like his write up for like his player profile, like said like what modern deck did you play and why, and he's like I hate modern. I played the best deck, and I get the idea that like he played Ironworks like a man out to punish the format. You know what I mean? Like he's just like Batman playing Ironworks.
He's just like hate playing Ironworks.
This is for you, Dad.
I enjoy that. Look at your stupid format. Look how I'm breaking it.
It's like reading Ozymandias. Look at you work. My works, you mighty and despair.
I appreciate that. At least he really showed him. Really showed us.
I think a lot of people say they don't like modern, end up playing like off the wall decks because like I think like I think of a Jeff Hoagland who who just plays like wonky decks now because like that's what his streamers or whatever his subscribers have him do. And Jeff's just like, well, if I hate this, I'm gonna at least win.
I just want to get paid for it.
Yeah, like I mean, gosh. So, yeah, but I think like this is a pretty good slice of what the metagame kind of looks like right now, with both types of Phoenix being presented here, both in mono red and Storms there, Banned Spirits sort of replacing the human role right now. Those two decks are kind of interchangeable at the moment, with Banned Spirits getting the edge. Jund, because why not? Jund has to be there.
Yeah, and like Jund is your a representative, like fair mid-rangey to control deck.
And then you, of course, you have your graveyard combo with Dredge. Yeah. So it's a pretty good slice of this. I will say, if you want to click on the Arthur's list, his main deck is the exact main deck that I played at that tournament. The sideboard differences were, I didn't play Surgical Extractions. I still played a Braid because I really like that card, and I played 2 Eidolon of the False Rebel.
Yeah.
I didn't play against Ironworks or Storm, but that's a card that I like in both of those matchups. But that's about it. So
cool. But yeah, so that was, of course,
we should at least mention Gerard Fabiano's standard deck.
So Gerard Fabiano played a, what kind of looks like a Jeskai control deck, but he had 4 Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, Jeskai Nexus
in his deck, and I've played against this in like best of 1 in Arena, and like Nexus of Fate just an annoying card. Like it's not everywhere anymore. I know that Emma Handy has been playing a Bent Nexus deck while laddering in Arena and stuff like that, and you do see them from time to time. It just is abysmal every time, because once they just start that chain going, there's just nothing you can do about it.
What are you gonna do?
Right? Yeah, it's rough. But yeah, I mean, like certainly an interesting take on the another kind of fun Jeskai thing you can do within this format. And going back to modern, I think the only thing that's not represented is sort of a big mana deck. We don't have an Amulet Titan or a Tron or anything like that.
Fair.
So that's the only thing that we're kind of missing here. I guess you could kind of say that Ironworks is a big mana deck.
No, not the same though.
Because you make a lot of
definitely
mana.
A combo deck.
But yeah, I mean, like, people try to argue that Tron's a combo deck. I mean, like, Amulet Titan is a combo deck essentially. Like, but yeah, I would say like those people are kind of missing out on seeing their list represented here in the top 8. But trust me, are still around. A lot of people still say that like Amulet Titan / Ironworks is like the best thing you can be doing in modern, but they just have such a high skill ceiling. It scares a lot of people off. So, ready to work over here to Liverpool?
Yeah, sure.
So we had GP Liverpool, which was.
I think I put down one winner, but it was a team event.
It was a team event. And was this Unified Standard or modern? Not Unified Modern? Or
no, I think this was just. All right, I'm sorry. I think it was Unified Modern.
Okay,
yes.
I
still think the only non-unified thing is going
Star
to be
City Games. Yeah.
So
it was Unified Modern. It was won by the team of Marcelino Freeman, Dagoberto Silva, and Daniel Becerra. Playing Boggles, Ironworks, and Death Shadow, respectively.
That's a team right there.
that is certainly a team. That is a team that's like Well, two of us probably we're not going to interact with you. Definitely not. You either stop us from winning or you don't. And then we have an interactive matchup in Death Shadow. But sometimes it's you either stop us from winning or don't. But yeah, it's cool to see. Cool in quotes, I guess. To see Boggles. Boggles is not necessarily something that we see a whole lot of these days. But definitely, if you're not prepared for it or you just don't have anything for it, then you're probably just going to die to it, which is pretty relevant. But yeah, I don't really have anything to super say about this. Since it's the team event, it's unified modern, so things have to be like adjusted and accounted for to be able to play what you want. The format is fairly wide, so you don't necessarily have to sacrifice anything, unlike unified standard or something like that. But again, we see a lot of usual suspects here.
The top 3 teams all have Ironworks.
Shocking.
Yeah. So,
but I mean, like it's hard to deny it just being being the best deck
and the 6th place team and the 7th place team.
It's hard to deny that it's the best deck in the format, and the longer it remains untouched, the more people are going to say, "Well, I'm just going to play that."
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just going to learn it.
That's true.
And that fear of the skill ceiling, is going to go away on
scaling, if you will.
It's going to go away on a long enough timeline. So eventually, it's just going to be more and more of the format, because, like you said, they can win through absurd levels of hate.
They really can, and just like their combo turns are so. How I want to say this, like their combo turns, like they get to see so many cards that their fail rate once they start going off is not high. Like they're pretty smooth. Like a lot of decks like that have a pretty healthy fail rate that like builds into it. Ironworks doesn't. So yeah, you hear that, Elliot? If you play enough, you can smooth it out. And just saying, bud.
Boy, howdy. And then the last thing here we're going to talk about is GP Portland. So let's pull up some of those lists. Again, this is going to be modern, and this feels like such a throwback. When you look at the top 3 deck lists, so it was won by Tyler Putnam playing Grixis Death Shadow, defeating Daniel Geider playing Black Green Midrange, which are like, oh, these are decks you can play, and
I like this black green list. My gosh, Tyler Strikers, Kalidas.
Yeah.
Man, what format are we playing?
Clearly a good one. Obviously when you have these black green lists, your mana is a little bit better. You're only looking for 2 sources, so you can get around Blood Moon a little bit easier. But there are weekends where not having a third color in your black green decks is just the correct choice. And I think like Kalidas is a fairly powerful card with something like Ironworks, because it's when they sacrifice something or everything, like they have to clear the Kalidas out to be able to effectively combo. So I think like that's important. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've sleeved up some overgrown tombs. But I do know that it varies from weekend to weekend when things are good and when things aren't. So, but yeah, this is definitely a very classic list.
We should definitely look at 5th place, Yuta Takahashi's Blue Eye Control list. You want to talk about another throwback list?
Yeah, for sure. We got some Bitter Blossoms, some Jace the Mind Sculptors, like
Heroes Downfalls in this deck.
Oh well, yeah, that card knows what it's doing.
Man, I really like these decks. A friend of ours playing a version of this at FNM I played against recently. I got to cast a turn 2 Hazard against him. Actually.
Oh,
that felt really good, and attack with it.
Yeah.
So
cool.
But I will say, these decks look like there's so many matches where I would love to have this deck, and then the first time my opponent went like Urza's Tower go, I'd be like, all right, I'll see you next tournament, guys. And I say that, but I watch. I don't know.
Game over.
It's I think it's tough for these decks to compete in those arenas, but otherwise these decks always look pretty sweet. So
yeah.
Like,
I mean, they look fun for sure.
I mean, just like the tag team of like Liliana and Jace the Mind Sculptor, like it's just like, oh man, do that jump high 5.
Yeah. I want to talk about elves.
Okay.
In 8th place by Aaron.
What about them? Their ears or
Aaron Kastner. So if there's
Style of dress.
if there is actually a deck,
propensity for shooting bows.
I understand what you're doing. If there is actually a deck that really gets hurt by Lavinia, it's actually elves.
Oh, okay.
For sure. Look, because you can't cast your things. You don't have very many mana, so you don't have very many lands.
Well, so that's not how that works though. Like if they go off with only having like 2 lands in play, then sure. But if you know, like most of the time they'll have even the 2 lands, they can cast most of their things outside of Archdruids.
Outside of Beast Whisperer, Shaman of the Pack, Azuri,
Oh, okay.
Elvish Archdruid,
but
Collected
but I
Company,
think they get to
lead the Stampede.
I think they get to lead to 3 mana pretty consistently. Yeah, they couldn't cast like Collected Company, so that's a thing. But I think like if they get to 3 mana, I don't think they care about. I don't think they care very much about it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like there are multiple instances where like you have like you're only playing 18 lands. Like how often are you going to consistently have 2 or 3 lands? Most of the time you're casting your elves off of your other elves.
That's true, I suppose.
And just comboing off. So like not being able to cast your elves because you can't
get that mana.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
It slows down the snowballing. I'm not saying like that makes Lavinia Infinity playable. Elves is like not necessarily always a consistently playable deck in the format. But I'm just saying like. I know, fan of the show and host of Orthos Cast, Brian, was definitely he's a consummate elf supporter, and I know that he was very upset about Lavinia and its impact on elves. So I just want to like,
oh, I'm very sorry, bud.
We're listening, we care.
The Lord of Leaves will be okay.
we care, and we're very sorry that Lavinia is a bad cop and wants to arrest all the elves. Apparently.
I'm not saying Lavinia is a bad cop. That's going to be the sweetest hard-boiled detective story I've ever read.
But just so you know, we read your tweets, we hear you, and we're gonna sound the clarion call to free the elves.
Not too loud, because if it gets deafening, then you'll kill all the elves.
It's true. But yeah, I think like that's a kind of an interesting thing to point out where you might not see it, might not be a thing, but
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, anything else from here in Portland that you want to call out?
No, we can go ahead and put a bird on it.
All right, put a bird on it. So that's this is gonna be our last show of 2018. It's been a long year.
It's been a long year.
So long.
Aged 12 years this year.
It feels like it. It definitely feels like it. And I think it's been an interesting year of growth for Magic. We have some interesting things that have obviously come out and been, actually fairly successful. And it's been a year of changing opinions on a lot of things. I feel like Arena initially started out as being not something that like pros were interested in, and then like once that ball got rolling, and once we had this real push into esports and stuff like that with the announcements at the end of the year, we really got a lot of people invested in Arena and invested in Magic, and there's streams that are going on that are heavily promoted, yes, but also still heavily watched, and it really feels like 2019 could be a big year of growth for Magic, depending on the moves that they make. I
agree. I think that there's, again, I'm hoping it's not, as I mentioned before, that sort of Emperor's New Clothes situation.
Yeah.
WotC has they have my love. They never have my trust.
That's true.
I think that we're all hopeful, because I think everybody who so we've been doing this cast for a long time now.
Very long time.
Yeah, like it's actually a really long time. So,
too long, some might say.
Yeah, like some people have like children. We have a podcast. It's okay.
It's whatever.
But we have seen sort of the ebbs and flows, but Magic has remained Magic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But this is the first time it feels like Magic could fundamentally change, become bigger than what it has been. Which could be good or bad. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But it's certainly exciting. I hope that they're able to navigate it better this year. I hope they're able to navigate it with clarity. Like that's what I hope. Like we as people who consume the game and put out content for the based on it, see clarity in decision making. It doesn't have to be transparent. Like they're a corporation. No. They're not going to do that. But clarity, which is something I think that I would hope for in the coming year, because we haven't had that very much. But I am excited. I know I've been someone who's poo-pooed Arena a fair amount, and I've been slow to adopt. I've been playing it a little bit because I know I should, because like if I want to progress, I'm going to need to. But then they gave me Vintage Cube, and it's like Holiday Cube's here. I can't.
No,
I got so many appointments with Holiday Cube. I just can't keep these all up.
There's so many drafts I can do.
And I've done a lot already. It's not. It's so many.
It's only one time a year.
I know. And I'm going to tell you this. That's something Arena doesn't have.
It's true. And like, I'm not here to say like Arena's going to take over everything. We know that's not the case.
No.
And it is. I'm just interested to see what 2019 holds when the game gets ideally a full release, because having tournaments on a beta client seems bad to me. And I think the best thing that we can hope is that, we have seen already, is that they are listening to the fan base when they announce changes and are not afraid to roll them back and reconsider them.
Right.
They did that recently with there was going to be a planned change in how the prizes were payout for certain events. They were going to take away individual card rewards, and the people did the math, and this was almost like a 90% drop in like prize payouts for certain constructed events, and people were livid. As I would be too. I was, because you can't expect people to want to invest in a game and like cut their rewards by 90%. And they didn't roll that out. They're going to go back to the drawing board on that, and I don't think they should roll it out until they have fixed the problem with the 5th card. Once they do that, then maybe that's an easier pill to swallow, because we don't have individual card rewards, but at the very least, if I open packs, I'm not going to get duplicate cards. We'll kind of see where these changes go. But I'm gonna stick around with them. I'm gonna still play Arena a lot, and I've been laddering on Arena with the best of one, and it's definitely not Magic. I'll agree with you there. Best of one is not ideal, and I think it's really silly that that is the way they've chosen to have their laddering system, when it should be, in my opinion, should be best of 3. It should just be how you play Magic. I understand like having it best of 1 makes decks a lot more accessible, because you just need less cards to have decks.
That doesn't have to be part of the actual, like, if laddering is going to lead you to professional level events, then that's you could have even separate ladders then. But just like if you're going to lead to professional level events, you have sideboards. That's right. But again, I think we're getting too specific.
Sure.
If we're just trying to put a cap on our year. I enjoyed doing this show. We've had some changes on the show.
Yep, as there always are.
We'll pour one out for Dave.
For Dave, rest in peace.
He's totally fine. He's actually totally fine. Yeah, he's just off living his life.
He just wanted to play Magic more and talk about it less.
Living it up, not giving a living life in the fast lane. But I hope you've enjoyed the transition. We've definitely gotten some feedback, both positive and negative, on the 2 hosting situation, and we're here to announce that it's going to be 2 hosts. So
it's not changing.
You've got to deal with it. So
I'm sure most of the
we don't like anybody else enough.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the negative feedback has been from the state of Virginia, so that's fine.
And go for it.
Do it. Light us up.
Suck it, Virginia. Virginia, you know what? Virginia doesn't even get Christmas this year. You know how I know? Because I'm Santa Claus.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this show. You folks, if you are celebrating anything during this time of year, have a happy celebrations. I'm personally going to wish everyone a happy Candle Nights, because that's. I hope Terry, the non-denominational gift-giving dragon, visits you, and leaves you a lot of lovely presents.
While I'm still on the Christmas train, I got to say Candle Nights is choice. If you've not looked up Candle Nights before, you should. It is your pan. It's like pansexual, pan-denominational, personal pan holiday.
Correct.
So there you go.
And we'll catch you guys in the new year in 2019. But from us, it's it for our show for right now. We'll catch you next time, and you have a great one. Bye.